Boom.
Fuck it. We'll do it live.
WNBC. All right. We're back for another episode of Hard Out, My Favorite Movie. We are here this time with Nick Clement. He is a script consultant, producer, film critic, writer for Variety, and probably the biggest film nerd I know online. I say that as a compliment, of course. Like, you watch at least a movie a day, it seems like, right?
At least, if not two, now that we've been home with the little guy for so long. And, we have a 5-year-old son, so he's definitely been enjoying his movie a day as well. But yeah, definitely gotta do a movie a day.
Yeah, you do a movie a day with him, right?
We've been trying. We've been pretty consistent too. We've been pretty good. So yeah, we've been watching a movie a day since March, since we pulled him out of the the preschool there for COVID and stuff.
Uh-huh. Oh, I should say
this feature.
Oh, go ahead.
Just curious.
What's today's feature?
Yes.
That's a great question. I'm gonna watch Out of Bounds tonight. But when he's actually at his grandparents right now, so what we'll watch when we come home, that'll be up to him. He'll get the choice today. My guess is that it'll probably be a Star Wars movie, but we might not have enough time to do that today, so we might have to go with something shorter. I just got the Blu-ray. Yesterday was Star Wars. Yesterday was Attack of the Clones. So we needed to see that for the 40th time over the last 8 months.
Painful.
So,
of all the ones to see that many times, it's crazy.
Yeah, I got a 5-year-old who got bit by the Star Wars bug and has not looked back at all, and has seen every single Star Wars movie and all of the Lego programming and Mandalorian and everything in between. So the Ewok adventures. So we're definitely off and running.
Crazy.
Oh yeah. He was crestfallen today when I told him that this coming Friday was the finale for the season. He was. Yeah, it's the finale this Friday, and then I guess season 3 is supposed to come out next Christmas. So
I need to have your wife.
Wow.
I need to have your wife talk to my wife because she's still nerfing our kid a bit. He's 7. And I'm like, dude, we watched Raiders and shit, but I mean, I don't know if she would let Gremlins go yet, which I know you watched recently.
Yeah, we did. Erica has. She's amazing. My wife puts up with a lot of stuff, but she knows that it's useless to get in the middle of movie madness with the little kid, I think. And we have we have a kid too who's so far, to his credit, points out, oh, well, it's just a movie, so it's fake.
Right.
So, at least we're there, but yeah, we just watched Raiders and that was exciting. He really enjoyed that. When the faces were melting at the end, he was quick to point out to me that that's not real, Dad. Those guys aren't melting.
Don't worry.
So I thought that was great.
Don't freak out, Dad.
Yeah, don't freak out, Dad. But Gremlins was an immediate hit. That was a 2 days in a row type deal.
I'm putting my foot down. God damn it! This shit's happening. Fuck it.
Gremlins is a lot of. It's a lot of fun. I did talk over the sequel. I did talk loudly over what's her name? Now, of course, her name escapes. Yeah, I talked over the Santa Claus scene first time, but then he heard it on the second time and didn't even care. So whatever. Yeah. They all.
Hey, just like the movies, all process fake. Stuff. Fuck it.
Yeah, it's fake. It's fake, Dad. So.
All right, let me say quick up front. Mark Finney, Boston area filmmaker, writer director of that film Fat. Maybe you've seen it. It's on Amazon Prime. Premiered at TIFF a few years ago, Toronto Film Festival. He was supposed to be with us, but apparently I failed in my responsibility to remind him yesterday of this. So he made other plans or some shit. I don't know. So
it just doesn't feel
just
prepared.
The 3 of us, dude. So
that'd be exciting. And we're talking about what constitutes probably, easily one of the best movies ever made.
Absolutely.
So it should be a fun conversation. Certainly my favorite movie of all time. The Facebook thing, has been going around over the last few days, which I have not started in yet. This top 10 list, post your 10 favorite movies. So this would certainly be at the top of my personal list and has been for a very long time.
Goodfellas is the film he's talking about. And yeah, that's a hard one to top, man. And if I remember right, I mean, I know it's like right up there with like Shawshank is the #1 movie on IMDb or some shit out of all the movies, right? I mean, Goodfellas is a masterpiece. It's just fucking flawless. So you can't gripe about anyone putting it #1, let alone in their top 10. One of the running jokes of the show is that Chris and I can't pick a favorite movie, even though we ask people to come on with their favorite movies. Like making a top 10 is fucking harrowing to me. I don't know, man. It's
yeah. Oh, it's a fluid. I mean, that's like a fluid thing. It could change every day depending on the direction the wind is blowing. I mean, you know, a few years ago I did a thing where it was like 100 movies I can't live without, and it was hard enough to come up with 100 movies. So I'm not sure, you know, for me, like a top 10 list of 10, you know, if you were to pick 10 movies that you loved, it would be just that. It would just be 10 movies that you could watch at any point, you know, in the day, you know, on any day of the week. And it wouldn't, you know, that you'd be completely fine with watching. I mean, that's how sort of I would look at trying to put together a list. I mean, it's like impossible to say what are the 10 best movies of all time. Of course.
Well, best and favorite is two different things too, because you might think There Will Be Blood is the best movie, but you don't want to watch it every day. You don't want to take it to a desert island.
Correct. Yes. The best and favorite thing has always been a big a distinct separation for me as well. And I still don't, you know, the whole best thing. I mean, again, you know, this is art, this is movies, it's subjective. What somebody loves, you know, somebody else is going to hate, and you know, it's just one of those things. But anybody who who says that they, you know, and love cinema or, you know, respect cinema and you know, could possibly talk ill of Goodfellas, they would have to have them get their head examined.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever met a person who didn't like Goodfellas, and if I did, I'm sure it was like my mother-in-law or someone, and we just never talked about it.
Too many F-bombs or some stupid shit.
Yeah, I don't like all the cocaine and murders and shit. Like, bitch, that's the best part.
I read a thing saying it had, I think, 300 and something F-bombs, variations of fuck, and Joe Pesci's character said half of them.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Tommy.
Would not be surprised. When was the first time that you guys saw Goodfellas?
I was just about to pose that question to you, actually, but
okay.
Man, it's not. See, now it being your favorite movie, it's probably made you might remember that more. I don't know if I can remember the time, like, you know, Kennedy got shot, 9/11 shit. I know.
Yeah, I have it. I have it like times, like I have it memory stamped essentially.
Well, and let me say too that I just do not remember my fucking life anymore. It's weird. It's the problem. Like my wife has to tell me everything that happened to me in the last 10 years. I don't know if it's because I had chemo brain at some point, but I think a lot of it's just living with anxiety, doing too many drugs, lack of sleep, all these things compounded. I just don't fucking remember my life. Now I can remember trivia and shit, but just my own life, no.
Trivia is more important than your life.
It is.
It came out in 1990, so I was a junior in high school in Georgia. And Jay and I did go to the theater once in a while, but not as fervently as we did in later times, I think. So I don't remember
money issue and parents.
And just access, right? You know, but I don't remember whether it was in the theater or where I saw it first. But it was not long after it came out. Yeah, I mean, it was still relatively new, I think. You know, but I haven't seen it many times since. Maybe like 3 times, including last night and this morning, in preparation for this. And yeah, every time it's just amazing. But I don't remember the first experience of watching it.
It wasn't.
It's just loving it, you know.
In that year, 90, I remember Dances with Wolves was my shit. Like, I remember looking forward to that movie. I remember, you know, we always had this thing with native culture, and, you know, I've told this before in a podcast, I think, but we were raised by our grandmother always telling us that we were part Blackfoot Indian. So we had like this real connection to that shit. And then when I was in like 5th grade, we were living in the Philippines or 4th grade. And I called her long distance because we were military brats. And I was like, so I'm doing this project on our family history. Can you fill us in on that Blackfoot Indian stuff? And she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? We used to say all the time that we're Blackfoot Indian.
I can vouch.
And then she says, I used to just say that because y'all would run around barefoot in the yard. You had dirty ass feet. It's like, what? So my whole, I was like some Elizabeth Warren shit. Like we grew up thinking
we're getting our Pocahontas on.
So Dances with Wolves was my jam that year. I remember, just that was the movie I cared the most about and profoundly affected me and everything. And Goodfellas, I saw that in the theater like opening day, Goodfellas came later, and maybe I didn't appreciate it for what it was at that age. And now Chris and I were at age 5 watching The Exorcist, fucking every slasher movie, even shit like The Killing Fields and shit, very adult films. So it's not like it was too hard hitting for me or something. I don't know. It just didn't have the same effect on me, but it's fucking amazing. I mean, I would say it's a better film probably than Dances with Wolves, I guess. I mean, it's, what are you comparing? That's apples and oranges for sure. They're so wildly different, but I don't know. Tell us about your first time watching it since it was so profound.
Yeah, my dad rented the tape for me. We rented the I was 10 in 1990, so I did see Dances with Wolves. My dad took me to see that in the theater. So that was one of the first epics that I was probably the first full-blown big budget Hollywood epic movie that I think I saw. And it's funny. I don't really know if I have actually revisited Dances with Wolves from start to finish since I saw it in the theater. And that was 30 years ago. And I know that I've seen it in bits and pieces, and I've certainly seen large sections, here and there throughout the years. But I have not seen that movie start to finish since the theater when I was 10. And yet I remember so much of it. Goodfellas I saw when I was 13. And it was like right when I was starting to really start taking notice of cinema as like, what it could be and as an art form, and, always grew up watching movies as a kid, loved movies. But that was definitely, a moment for me in like my life where I saw a film and I was like, oh my God, okay.
Well, just the virtuoso style of it.
Yeah, just and like when you know that you want to sort of spend your life, like I've been involved in movies throughout my life, since college and all the way up until now in one form or another, whether or not it was a full-time job or not. So that was like the movie that sort of cemented for me, like, wow, okay, you can do something with your life, and have it be movies, in some form. And it just blew me away. I mean, I remember watching it in the basement of our house, and, and my dad, having seen it and knowing what was going to come, and, not spoiling any of it for me and just letting it, happen. And, the biggest thing that I can remember about my first viewing of that movie was just how angry I was when Joe Pesci got killed. And because it was like this brilliant thing where like, I was 13 and, he makes you care about a killer for like even a little bit. And when I was 13, I didn't, I'm not mature enough fully to understand all of the complexities that's going on there. I was just fucking irritated that, this character who, I wouldn't say that I loved Pesci's character, but I was enamored with his character because it's like the thrill. I mean, that movie is about the rush of doing all these terrible things. It's part of the deal. So
it kind of casts the same spell on you that the mob wives are cast under. You know what I mean? Like you're almost like Lorraine Bracco, where you're like, oh my God, this guy's dangerous, and the allure of it. So you buy into Tommy big time.
Exactly. So when that happened, I was just like devastated. I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe they just killed him. And then, and over time, I've seen, like why I would have felt that way. And, I find it really interesting to go back and think about when I first did watch that movie. But I mean, that was an instance where I watched it, and then the next day I watched it, and then the next day I watched it, and then we returned the videotape and we rented it again. And like, it just, and then I just watched it repeatedly and ended up buying it. And, Scorsese pretty much became my favorite filmmaker, and outside of Tony Scott, sort of has always been at the very top. Him and Tony Scott are like my two favorite filmmakers. And, it's just Goodfellas just exists on that plane of just, it's like sublime. It's so entertaining. It's just so full of itself. And that when you're watching it, like that, just, not that you haven't seen this with other films that Scorsese's made, but when you watch it, you just get this sense that this is exactly what he wanted to do. And
you're in the hands of a master. For sure.
Exactly.
Well,
And
I remember,
and I did have a chance to.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do remember being impacted by the freeze frames, the dolly zooms, all the tricks and shit that you don't see. And he went full out, dude. I mean, he's everything pretty much.
And then, and at that period, like, I was 13 and I saw that. And then the next year, my dad took me to see Pulp Fiction and Natural Born Killers. And then the next year, my dad took me to see like films like Heat and Casino. And I was, I was a goner, like you're just like, like you just see those movies when you're 13, 14, 15. And I already had a huge obsession, with Jerry Bruckheimer and Tony Scott and Ridley Scott. So I was really, really obsessed with Top Gun, Crimson Tide, and Beverly Hills Cop, and Alien and Blade Runner. And, my dad took me to see Blade Runner when I was probably 9 or 10. He took me to see it at a Trinity College in Hartford. This 70 millimeter screen, unbelievable. One of the nicest movie theaters in Connecticut. We used to go there all the time and, saw Taxi Driver and RoboCop and just, unbelievable classics, and it's cool. I was able to see Goodfellas once too. I've only seen it once on the big screen, and I saw it in LA. And it was at a screening with Irwin Winkler where he did a Q&A, right after. And that was awesome. It was really cool. So, I can say that I did get a chance to see Goodfellas on the big screen once. And that was hysterical because at that, it was when I was living in LA, and it's about, it was like 2005, probably 2004, somewhere around there. And at that point, you'd seen the movie hundreds of times. So, you go to the theater to see a movie that you've seen 100 times, and like literally it felt like 30 seconds. Just like the movie was over, like, the lights went down and then they came up and the movie was over. So
that movie has that brisk pace too in general. It just,
great,
it grabs you by the lapels and just yanks your ass through it. By the way, I just cracked a beer. We like to do that on the show. Toast to your pops.
Oh, nice.
All the parents who fucking take their kids to the right kind of movies at the right ages. Love it. I mean, to instill that love of cinema in you as you're doing with your son. I'm trying to with my son, but we made the mistake of fucking introducing video games. I know
we haven't gotten.
You don't have a game system or whatever.
Yeah, so. I never like. It's just like my parents were really big on movies. I had a Nintendo and I had a Super Nintendo, and then I never had another console after Super Nintendo. And my video games were Mario, and I played all of the NHL PA. I got like every season because I was big into hockey. And then when I moved out to LA and I worked as a runner and a PA, my roommate had a PlayStation, and we used to play Grand Theft Auto Vice City like every night.
Right.
So that was for like 2 years straight. I would just take out all my aggression on everybody in that and just slaughter people. So that was really where it was like Mario, hockey, and GTA, and that's it. So my son has not experienced video games yet. And I know I got to do something about that because I don't want him to be left behind, and I don't want him to be ignorant about it. And, friends will have video games, and
the problem is that
video games are going to be
and it's competition.
It is crack, and that's the thing. Yeah,
it is big competition.
It's very addictive, and I don't need just we got a kid with an addictive personality already with the Legos and the all the other stuff that we're doing now. So it's like you got to choose these things and introduce them when they're at the right moment.
Also,
but yeah, he's
the Lego. You talked about he's watched all the Lego Star Wars programming and shit. Those Lego Star Wars games. I've talked about this too on the podcast. Those motherfuckers spoil the movies. We went to show him Star Wars movies, and he's like, Darth Vader's his dad and shit, and fucking Kylo Ren's gonna kill Han Solo and shit, because the fucking stupid video games blow all the. They don't.
So your kids haven't seen all the movies yet, then.
I just got the one kid, but yeah, but I'm saying we would go to watch the movie.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, as we're watching the movie, he's like, Kylo Ren's going to kill his dad, Han Solo.
Because he's seen the Lego stuff before the movie. Okay.
Yeah, and the game's fucking.
Yeah.
Because
on the games.
Yeah, it's like, you got a game. Why don't you just make new Star Wars adventures? You don't have to rehash the movie in the game and then blow the fucking, because the movie or the Lego video game is more age appropriate, arguably, to some kids, whatever, than some of the movies might be. Kylo Ren killing his fucking dad and shit. Some people might think that's a little advanced for a 4-year-old or something, but they could play the video game. But no, the video game spoils the shit. It's terrible. Bad on you, Lego video games.
We haven't gotten into it yet, but it will at some point. The movies and the TV shows, and my kid loves YouTube. Like he loves videos on that, and we've sort of moved away from that. I was really big. Like we had a kid who was really into trucks. So there was a lot of truck videos and truck this and that, and wanting to watch, digging and all of that shit. And then that has, sort of segued into the Lego stuff. And, but we watched all the Star Wars movies before he started to see any of the Lego stuff. So it's sort of, it's funny. It's like he sees them like sort of riffing and making fun. And of course at 5, you don't get the irony or the satire, but, it's funny how they can go from the movies to the TV shows and sort of just like, make the mental connections between everything. But, I'm thinking when he's like 12, 13, or next week, we'll watch Goodfellas and we'll see what, see what mom has to say. But
just don't let him play the Goodfellas Lego game. That's all.
Goodfellas Lego game.
That's what they need.
And if you guys, I'm looking at my copy, and I just got it. I've yet to dive into it. But the book Made Men, The Story of Goodfellas by the film critic Glenn Kenny, is now available in hardcover. And this is it came out this year. And it is the full on, I talked to Scorsese all the way down to the, key grip. And, it's like the whole deal about Goodfellas, and I can't wait to read this.
I was going to say, it's one thing we love to do in these episodes, and these can wildly branch off into whatever. I mean, we ended up talking about aliens in the Inherit the Wind episode and shit. So they can go anywhere.
Of course, that's what movie maniacs do. Of course.
Yeah, exactly. Now, but we do love to dig into the lore of these films, and I got to admit, I don't recall hearing a ton of lore on this movie. It's just like a bunch of masters got together and made a movie. But I don't remember. Like Predator had so much crazy shit behind the scenes with McTiernan.
Fight Club, we just did tons of trivia. I try to do that. I'll scan the trivia about a movie, before we talk about it if I get an opportunity. And this one did seem to kind of have a dearth of that compared to many of those other,
like, what's the fun Hollywood behind the scenes shit, the scandals?
Yeah. I mean, there'd be things like they originally were going to cast so and so and that kind of stuff, but nothing.
Yeah,
and that noteworthy.
I wonder what this book will detail about any of that, because it is funny. It's like, you just get the sense that when they made Goodfellas, all these amazing professionals got together and nobody fucked around and they made a great movie. And you're right. Like there has never been, like with The Godfather, Chinatown, all these movies, and they're going to, all these movies where they're now going to make movies about the making of those movies. Right. Because there was so much, brouhaha. But yeah, you're right. It is funny.
Fat in Apocalypse Now. All the time,
exactly. So no, that is true. And again, I think that too,
right.
That, and absolutely. And I think that part of that probably is that, at the point where all of those guys were in their careers, right? Like, De Niro being cemented by that point, Scorsese having done all of the stuff in the 70s. I mean, that was the first movie of the 90s that came out for Scorsese, right?
Right.
So,
and that was after some departures from, Last Temptation of Christ, After Hours,
exactly.
Weird shit.
The 80s were very mixed. There isn't a Martin Scorsese movie I personally feel is bad. I think that they are all excellent in their own way.
Comedy was and
exactly. The 80s were an eclectic time for him and had, films of varying levels of success. And The King of Comedy is like my number 2 or 3 of his films. So Goodfellas brings him back to that world that he sort of like started to get into early in the career. And then of course he goes and makes Casino afterwards, which, you know, I personally think is just as good as Goodfellas. I know, and you always had that classic, what's better, or what do you like more, Casino and Goodfellas. And, you know, for years it was like, I was a staunch, it's Goodfellas only. I love Casino, but don't even tell, you know, and like over the years I realized
Casino's that, you know, fucking masterful.
Casino,
like,
it's just unbelievable.
When you talk about peak Scorsese and what he's doing with the camera and editing and everything, Casino might take it just with that montage style where it's just all voiceover and just cinema, just images, boom, 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 tracking shots.
Casino has a rhythm. There's a real energy and rhythm to it that, you know, that you can definitely see it. It was something that started in Goodfellas and then he maxed out on it in Casino. So, but in Goodfellas, you're right. I mean, it's one of those movies that it was just made by professionals at the height of their, you know, their powers and the peak of their craft. And like you said, nobody farted around. They just made
there was no fuck ups, great movie. Scandals. Nobody died. No John Landis type shit going on. No, I mean, the closest things you can come are just little tidbits of information. Like, you know, the book was Wise Guy. Or Wise Guys by Nicholas Pileggi, but that fucking Ken Wall TV show, Wise Guy or something, they couldn't name it that, so they named it Goodfellas. You know? Those
details. Did you read the book, by the way, before or after?
Yes, I've read Wise Guy. I read the Casino. I read the Goodfellas book, and that was based on. I read the Casino stuff. So,
what do you think about? What do you think about My Blue Heaven as a spiritual sequel to this? Because My Blue Heaven and this also about Henry Hill, you know, essentially
during his time in the program.
My Blue Heaven is super underrated, and it's a ton of fun. It's a ton of fun to think
Henry
about.
Hill didn't
you
like
know,
it. He loved Goodfellas,
probably didn't.
My Blue Heaven.
Well, yeah, Goodfellas gets him laid. My Blue Heaven ain't getting him laid.
Right. I don't really remember much of it. I've seen it, but I don't remember.
My Blue Heaven, you and I talked for a while. I remember about doing a dramatic remake of My Blue Heaven. Like, you could take My Blue Heaven scene for scene and just play it dramatic instead of comedic, and it would be dank as fuck.
I just don't remember the details of the movie itself, like how it went down.
It's definitely fun, and it's fun to think of it as a shared universe with Goodfellas, or like that it's like an unofficial sequel or whatever you want. You know, it's because, you know, before of course all that stuff took precedent with making movies and, you know, how everybody thinks. So it's definitely fun to have that little thought. Herbert Ross, you know, it's funny. You think about, like, you know, he made a lot of underrated movies. You know, that's a filmmaker that doesn't get like any discussion. So
I'm trying to look up what he made.
Herbert Ross.
Yeah.
He did, like, I know he did 7% Solution, which I love. And he did Pennies from Heaven, which I love. Hold on, what did he do?
Why's my internet being so fucking slow? Come on.
He did Footloose. He did Secret of My Success. He did Steel Magnolias. He did Ninjinsky. He did California Suite. He did The Goodbye Girl. He did Chapter 2. He did Funny Lady.
There's so many good filmmakers that just get forgotten. Yeah. And sometimes you look at their catalog and you're like, whoa, he made these 5 fucking movies I saw in the 70s and the 80s, I guess, you know, for us. But films from the 70s and 80s. And it's like,
the last movie he did was Boys on the Side in '95. You did Soap Dish. He did did True Colors with John Cusack and James Spader. He's a good filmmaker. I love Pennies from Heaven. That's a classic that does not get any, you know, it's Big Bomb. But I think that movie.
I mean, that's a great career as a director to make 15 fucking feature films in the Hollywood system. I mean, you're a powerhouse, and just no one any college is ever going to talk about this guy, or film school or something, you know. And that's kind of the kind of career you want. Just a good working class, solid filmmaker who makes crowd pleasers, essentially, you know.
When you guys think about Goodfellas, what's the thing that, if there's not a scene that maybe is your favorite scene, What is it about Goodfellas that is like sticks out to you? That is like the thing, the reason why you love it.
Yeah, well, I was just saying the scene that sticks out the most for me and probably a lot of people is Pesci, Tommy. Do I amuse you like a clown? You know, how I'm funny? How
that whole the Scheinbach shit and
Spider. Yeah, well, I was that though kind of summarizes a lot of the other parts of the film.
For me,
that they're laughing, but it's dangerous. Like at any minute, he can just turn on you, and
well, that's the problem is the Spider kind of gets shot because of De Niro. De Niro mishandled his tool that is Tommy.
I was thinking that as I watched. Like,
Jimmy should have known better than to egg Tommy on.
The tragic demise of Spider is definitely up there for me. And it's also to the reaction of everybody at the table after it happens.
Oh man, everybody's I'm not taking the fucking hole this time.
Everybody's like, everybody just sits there and nobody gets up, and they've just watched this maniac execute somebody, and they all know that they can't act. They have to just act themselves. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of whether or not they may have been scared or not, they have to be just pretend. It's just
appearances, sort of.
Keep the appearance up, and it's like when Joe Pesci whacked Samuel L. Jackson, and Frankie Carbone is making the coffee, and he's like holding the mug, and he's like looking at look at this maniac, like, and then Joe Pesci's like, what are you making that coffee to go? The whole thing, and it's just he's just stunned, and I think that's one of the things that has always grabbed me about Goodfellas is that people act in that movie, and then they, it's like
part of it's the code that they live by, the power structure and the hierarchy. They know that Tommy, like Henry Hill said, I can't be a made guy like Tommy can because he's full Italian or whatever. So it's like there's always this power structure at play, and you better not fuck with Tommy because he's going places, and you know what I mean. It's like not just that he's a psychopath, but also that he's going to outrank you one day, etc. He's a favored son, just because he's born into it in a way. Well, for me, one of the things I love about this film is that turn it takes into the drug shit. How Paul Sorvino, Paulie fucking warns him, don't fuck with this drug shit. I don't want to die in prison, 70 years old. Like, what's his name? And then the film takes that turn and it goes full bore cokehead fucking madness. The helicopter fucking sequence. I mean, dude,
paranoia.
That shit is amazing. And
that one scene where Lorraine Bracco's Karen, she's with De Niro, and he's saying, "I got some dresses for you. Just go down the street, down that alley."
It's chilling.
The tension, and she turns back, and just the look on his face, it seems.
Dude, it's up there with Drea and Sopranos type shit.
Yes, and she just bails like, "I'm out of here." Like that.
It's a very eerie shot down that that alley.
Back,
when he's like, just go down there, and it's like it's definitely
it's almost
creepy.
nauseating.
Yes.
Yeah, it is nauseating. And I think that one of the best things about Goodfellas, right, is that like so many people have obviously been inspired by Goodfellas and have emulated it and whatever, right? And no one has ever even come close.
No way.
No way. Do you know what I mean? Like other people have made great movies that have been copied and knocked off and ripped off, and people have done like really good jobs of that kind of thing. And we could spend an hour talking about what those examples are, but like no one has ever been able to make another gangster movie that's quite like Goodfellas.
The closest might be TV, Sopranos. And it has a lot of connective tissue with this movie, like things I didn't even realize until watching it again now, that it was Lorraine Bracco. Like, I had seen the movie before, and then seeing Sopranos, she plays the therapist. And it was only watching Goodfellas after having seen her play the therapist that I really realized it was her. Like, I didn't have enough awareness when I watched Sopranos to know that it was the same actress. But yeah, and what's his name, Frank Vincent, and there's a few other people who were in put to great use in Sopranos. But like, it's like you were saying about being pissed off that Pesci's character was killed off, that you found him so endearing, even though he was a monster, and that's true with The Sopranos too. That
absolutely,
Paulie and Tony, of course.
Of course, yeah, making you care about terrible people. So
yes, yeah. And just the life, what it's like, the kind of power it comes with, but also all the shit you have to do.
Well, that's the thing; they're born into being terrible people to a degree. Yes, right. Because somewhat, yeah. Henry Hill, obviously, his parents were working class, and he had the allure of the fucking across the street. He went for it, So you don't give him a free pass morally and shit on some of this, but it is there, and it is like they said, like Karen says, she buys into it. That he was entrepreneurial while all these other dudes are sitting on their ass. He's out there hustling, trying to make money, trying to make a better life for himself, trying to get rich. It is the American dream to a degree. It's Scarface, The American dream isn't necessary, especially once you realize the American dream is kind of bullshit and there is not the upward mobility that everyone talks about. That just the American dream is to go take the shit, outlaws, fucking the Great Train Robbery, obviously, which is alluded to in this. I did see Scorsese said, he had watched the Great Train Robbery, and he's like, this is the Great Train Robbery. It's the exact same story. When you watch the Great Train Robbery, it's about these outlaws who pull this heist, and then they start killing each other, and then everyone's in jail or dead at the end. And he's like, that's what the fuck Goodfellas is, and that's why he put that shot in at the end as an homage to the Great Train Robbery.
Did you ever see Henry Hill on Howard Stern? He was a regular on there.
Yes.
I never did.
Yeah, check out some of the YouTube videos. It's fascinating. I mean, he's like became
total drunk,
severely alcoholic. Yeah, he's just drunk out of his head sometimes, and he called in a lot, but he's been physically in the studio too. And he, people from his past life would call and be like, "You're a fucking rat. You're gonna fucking get it," and shit like that too. I don't know how much of a put on this shit is, but I got the sense it might be real.
Can you imagine where he's still alive right now, right?
I think he died just a couple years ago, didn't he?
I think he did die. You're right. Yeah, he died. Yeah, he died 8 years ago. Wow, yeah, he did die a while back.
Did you hear Sammy the Bull Gravano or whatever has a podcast and shit now? Like, it's so weird that some of these guys who are in witness protection for years.
Mike Francese was part of this whole scene. I think he was mentioned in the movie, and he's all over the place.
Sammy the Bull.
That's a fucking
Sammy
podcast.
the Bull.
Yes,
but
it's crazy. It's just.
But wait, and that guy's in witness protection.
He was for years.
Yeah, that's what blew my mind about Henry Hill too, going on Stern and stuff. Like, man, he's supposed to be in the witness.
But eventually they just get sick of it. They're just like, they want to claim dead. What they did too. They're like, man, I lived a huge, crazy, they want that awesome notoriety. Life. I'm not gonna be some schmuck living in Arizona,
Wow. Yeah. I see right here. This is a story yesterday.
What is it?
It just says, this is insane. One-time Gambino crime family executioner Sammy the Bull Gravano's new podcast arrives with a bang this week. The former underboss to John Gotti premieres his new venture Wednesday, the 35th anniversary of the holiday season mob hit on family boss Paul Castellano outside Sparks Steakhouse in Midtown.
The famous photographs, yes. Dude, it's amazing.
On the debut episode, Gravano dishes on a proposed plot to personally whack another boss, Genovese head Vincent the Chin Gigante.
I gotta listen to this shit.
One of my guys says,
"You're gonna sit down with your kid. You're gonna introduce your kid to this podcast."
He's gonna do a podcast and talk about all the people that he murdered, and he's not gonna get in trouble for it.
He's already had immunity and all that shit. I think,
do they just think maybe everyone's too old and doesn't give a fuck anymore? They're all just in fucking, retirement basically, and
it's crazy.
Maybe they just feel like there's no more.
Who's produced? Like, this has to be like he isn't just doing this. Like, someone must be producing this and making it professional and profiting off of this guy.
Yeah,
I mean, there are a lot of people who do just directly make their own show now, but I think you might be right.
Oh man, it's the new racket. Patreon's the new racket,
right? Yeah,
This guy does. I mean, anything's possible. This guy does not look like the kind of guy who knows how to set up a podcast.
Yeah. So I'm sure he's got
pictures.
But I just meant in terms of hands in his pockets.
What?
I just meant in terms of hands in his pockets, like how much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he might have found a young Jamie on the internet or some shit.
Wow.
His nephew came to him. You should have a podcast, Uncle fucking Sammy. You know?
Right.
Oh no, it says right here. According to Gravano, future episodes will delve deeply into his life of crime and rise to the rank of underboss. The Bensonhurst native plans to discuss everything from his early days in organized crime to his decision to turn government witness and his new life in Arizona.
Sounds compelling.
Give me a second. I'm subscribing to this right now.
This is an Apple podcast.
Strange times we're in, man.
It says here, the Apple podcast extends Gravano's social media presence. The confessed killer of 19 is already out and about on Facebook and Instagram.
Right. It's like Natural Born Killers type shit, both. It's like Old Dogs meets Natural Born Killers or some shit. Like, it's hilarious.
This is too weird. This guy doesn't go to jail for all that because he ratted on people.
Made one deal, right? Because it's so strange, the kind of bargains they make with these guys.
And someone's going to get arrested in an hour for smoking a joint somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably.
So,
does seem very
interesting. Interesting.
Essentially profiting off his crimes, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is nuts. I can't believe that someone's giving this guy.
Well, now
I can't believe that someone is giving this guy a platform.
Cancel him, man. Go on Twitter. Cancel him.
Yeah, he's done. I just can't believe this. Like, it's so wild. 75 years old.
I'm gonna listen to this shit.
Yeah, me too. I was gonna say.
It's probably gonna be unbelievable.
Yeah.
Not donate to his Patreon, but I'll patronize it.
And hopefully he is a trailblazer and just more fucking old crazy bastards come out of the woodworks telling their stories and shit. Because I mean, that's really what you want, is just old men telling stories around the campfire, recounting the crazy, whether it's true or not, even, you know, fish tales, Paul Bunyan tall tales and shit. I mean, his.
Have you guys seen this new, while we're on the subject of gangster movies, have you guys seen the new Godfather 3 recut?
No, but I want to, and I heard it's good.
Yeah, everybody's saying it's good.
Huh, okay.
I haven't seen the recut, and I've never seen Godfather Part 3 at all.
Oh shit!
I saw it not long ago. I actually never watched it most of my life, and I just saw it maybe like 3 years ago, or shit, maybe 8. Like this other, like shit goes by so fast. But I actually I was aware of all the hate. I didn't hate it that much. I actually kind of dug it.
A lot of people shit on Sofia Coppola for not being a great actor.
I still haven't. You know, again, it was a movie that came out. Like, when did that come out?
90s,
when did Godfather 3?
I don't remember.
Early 90s, I think, right? Or
like, so, you know, I was just getting into film, and I hadn't seen either Godfathers yet. You know, I saw the Godfather actually not long after Goodfellas. My dad ended up getting Godfather and Godfather 2, and my dad must not have been a fan of the third one, because it was never something that we watched. You know, we never watched it together. And then just over the years, it was just one of those.
Actually.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but
wait, when did it come out?
Same year as Goodfellas. Yeah.
So it probably also suffered by comparison. I mean, if you're going to see a gangster movie in 90, it ain't fucking Godfather 3.
The Godfather, wait a minute.
That's what the website tells me.
Godfather Part 3 came out in 1990.
Yes.
December 25th, according to Wikipedia, 1990.
When did you think it came out?
I thought it was like 93 or something. So that means that the Godfather and Goodfellas were up against each other at that year's Oscars.
And Godfather 3 got smoked. I mean, I don't know if Godfather 3 got nominated for anything.
Yeah, it was nominated for a lot of stuff, and then it didn't win anything. But wow, so I didn't realize that Scorsese and Coppola were up against each other. So it was almost like, you know, it's funny. It's like everybody always says Goodfellas versus Dances with Wolves, right? Well, like, the two gangster movies canceled each other out. And that also helped Dances with Wolves. I mean, like, why didn't anybody ever say that?
Was Godfather 3 nominated for much?
It had to have been.
Good question.
Maybe. I don't know, man. It was pretty universally panned and shit.
Yeah. Let's see.
Here's a good question for you. What is your favorite non-Scorsese mob movie?
The King of Comedy.
No. Favorite non-Scorsese mob movie.
Oh, like non. Oh, I thought you. Non-mob. I thought you said non-mob Scorsese movie. My favorite mob movie not made by Scorsese. That's a good question. I
mean, you start thinking about it. What are the options you got?
Godfather's 1 and 2, of course.
The Godfather flicks.
Yeah, love Godfather 1 and 2. Yep, big fan of Untouchables. Love Brian De Palma.
Donnie Brasco. That counts.
Oh, that's a good
Donnie Brasco. I love. Donnie Brasco's great. I'm a big fan. It gets a very mixed reception, and right now, Johnny Depp, is nobody likes him now anymore. Of course. I love Public Enemies.
Yeah, good film.
I think it's so underrated.
Black Mass too, where he played Whitey Bulger. He was pretty chilling in that.
Yeah. Road to Perdition. I don't know if that's a mob. It's a mob movie. It's got mob elements. Love Road to Perdition. Big fan of that one. Donnie Brasco's great. Donnie Brasco's one of
that might be it. Just so character driven. So
yeah,
good.
It's like a British guy. It's like Mike Newell directing a down and dirty New York period thing, and he got such a great turn from Pacino.
Some of Depp's best work. It's like Stephen King's best shit is his non-supernatural shit. I feel like that about Johnny Depp. That some of his best performances are the non-outlandish.
When Depp plays a real human being, when he plays a real human being, he's always, I think, far more enjoyable.
Gilbert Grape, shit like that. And Anne Heche was fucking great too. Yeah, Bronx Tale's good. Yeah,
Bronx Tale's a great film. LA Confidential is more of like a
sort of mob, not really.
More of like a noir, something like a mob movie. But Bronx Tale definitely.
Irish.
Right? I didn't love The Irishman as much as everybody else did, but The Irishman certainly, very accomplished. Hoffa, which I think is underrated. Danny DeVito's.
Totally. Danny DeVito directed Hoffa, which is amazing. Yeah.
Bugsy, Warren.
Oh, that's a good.
Well,
oh yeah. I was going to say,
Bugsy.
Do you want to talk about? I'd be curious to talk about The Irishman for a second, if you're interested, since you just touched on it.
Yeah, the Irishman definitely. I just didn't like the CGI shit. The CGI masks. The CGI masks bothered me. They
I would
annoyed
prefer
me.
Just different actors.
Yeah. Here's what I said about
Godfather 2, right?
Godfather 2. De Niro himself played a younger Brando. Right. You don't slap a face on an old Brando and make him, because he moved like an old ass De Niro, an old man with his younger face. It was so weird and gross.
It was weird. I didn't.
Just for a couple moments though, in oh my god, why is the name escaping me? Jesus, help me out. What is the movie we're talking about?
The Irishman.
The Irishman. Yeah, sorry. I kept wanting to say The Untouchables and all these other movie names, but anyway, there are a couple moments in it though, like the drive to the murder. There was fish in the back seat, so he's like, "I'm not sitting back there," or whatever, and like just those details. When he said his lawyer was killed, and he goes, "Who got him?" Or his lawyer died. He said, "Who got him?" He's
if they had just cast a younger guy to play younger De Niro, probably would be fucking amazing.
Yeah, him when he was beating the dude up on the curb, it just looked awful. It just it was like an old dude trying to kick someone.
Can't understand why they did that. It's like he did all these other stuff, and I like the film a lot. I've only seen it once. I didn't have this, like, it was weird. Like, I think that a lot of it too is that it's about resigning yourself to death and the end of your life, and like you failed everybody, and I think that just by design, at least for me, it doesn't invite the same level of, rewatch factor. Like I'm not like, oh, I need to rewatch that movie all the time. But there's so many great scenes in it. And it's one of those things where like you want to go back and see it again, even when you just think about it, because there's so many great individual scenes and moments and lines and, just the way that, Pesci got him. He was so good. It was so nice to see him back, in a movie again, a big movie.
Type of character too,
and playing a different character. And it's like the reverse of, that's the reverse of Casino and Goodfellas. Like if that was the thrill and the sexiness and the excitement of doing that, The Irishman is all about, just, how much of a piece of shit have you been throughout your life and how many people have you fucked over and killed and
just lunch paling it, it's like lunch paling,
exactly.
just atrocity and shit. Here's a question.
I still wonder what, because, they were going to make this movie so many times. They were going to make The Irishman so many times. And I still wish that Michael Mann had made it when it was called I Paint Houses.
Yes.
And, he had the cast, mostly the same cast that Scorsese had. And again, not taking anything away from what Scorsese did, just would have been curious to see what Michael Mann would have done with the, similar material or almost the same script or whatever.
It'd be,
Well, here's a question I was going to ask you. I don't know how much time we have left. This thing's a ticking time bomb. Could go off in any minute, but,
it seems like we're about probably 3 or 4 minutes away from that thing going off. So,
all right, well, let's talk about Scorsese and his comments about Marvel and whether or not they qualify as cinema and how CGI plays into that. Because to me, his use of CGI in The Irishman, you could argue, isn't as either. You know what I mean? Cinema is all about the sleight of hand, the trick, pulling off the illusion through practical effects and everything. That to me is true cinema. CGI is always a bullshit cheat code, So there's a little bit of hypocrisy on his part there, but I'm just curious what you think about his comments about Marvel movies and what you think about Marvel movies and shit in general,
I have complicated feelings about the Marvelization of cinema. I think that what they did as a company is astounding. I think that just the overall vision that those guys had to create all of those standalone films to then, be bridged into team ups and then have all of these things. And it's an unbelievable thing that they've done in terms of creating this mass extended world of films. I have a 5-year-old now who's getting excited about all this stuff. I enjoyed Marvel phase 1, and then I sort of just was like, all right, I'm done. And I have not seen a vast majority of the recent releases. I will now, of course, see them because I have a kid. I don't begrudge anyone from wanting to see superhero movies. Escapism and entertainment is always what cinema is. Cinema has always been built upon the foundation of take you to a different place and see things you never see and have entertainment. I think Scorsese's comments I thought were.
Go ahead.
Yeah, his comments were a little misguided. I mean, he's the old guard. He doesn't want to see every third movie be a comic book movie, which I get. He's watched the studios shy away, and again, he's Scorsese, so he can get pretty much anything made that he wants, right? So, why would you bitch at all? But I also think it was also during the Irishman stuff. It was these comments I think were taken maybe not fully out of context, but they were made during Irishman press, and I think it was an easy swipe for him. And again, listen, it's an easy. What's easier to knock? Great success. Marvel has had nothing but great success. People bitch and moan about their movies, and they sit down and watch them, and then they enjoy them.
I think partly what he's getting at is the lack of risk taking. I think
but the lack of art form,
absolutely. That's I think his gripe, which is valid.
And I agree. And but there's 31 flavors of cinema. You can have
that's
Marvel,
saying,
and then you can have
these are amusement park rides versus other movies more like his, which are meant to be more almost literary or something. But
of course, and listen, Scorsese puts his names on films like A Field in England by Ben Wheatley, and he champions Enter the Void, and he champions any number of films that do they do have something to say about the language of cinema and advancing the art form. And there's always going to be those filmmakers who are going to be out there breaking rules and taking chances and not taking
how awesome would it be though to get a Marvel movie by Gaspar Noé or something? You know what I mean? Why can't we someday really go there and just
I wish they would. They Marvel likes to hire the independent. They like to hire the young independent darlings who have hit it big at Sundance and on the indies, and then they can get them for a song. And then those folks will, you know, they're happy to get the work. They will take the notes from the studio. They'll still bring their personality to it. And then like, basically they're getting, you know, those movies as like a launching pad to their careers. So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, it's funny when you see like the Russo brothers started with like Welcome to Collinwood and John Watts with Cop Car and James Gunn obviously was Slither and shit like that, and they go on to make these fucking Marvel movies.
Now look, I mean, the Russos, they didn't direct it, but they just produced this kick-ass movie I watched a little while ago called Mosul, which is on Netflix right now.
That's good.
It's very ass kicking. You know, and they produced that. You know, like Michael Carnahan really knocked that one out of the park. I thought very intense movie. But yeah, I mean, Marvel serves as a big thing for a lot of people, and you know, so my whole feeling on it is it's not going away. I'm disappointed that the studios have shied away from more adult filmmaking. I'm happy that the streaming outlets, Amazon, Netflix, you know, Apple to a lesser degree, but probably coming up more, that they're getting, you know, in the business of making the movies that the studios have sort of fallen off on making.
To a degree, yeah.
You know, but you know, to a degree.
Like I see you were a programmer a lot when you post about some of these, like a Jagged type movie or whatever. You don't see too many of those.
I miss those movies though. But I miss
Basic
those
Instinct. Is Netflix going to make a Basic Instinct? No, you know. So
not maybe not. You know, Netflix will make almost any, like Netflix will say yes to anybody who has a name that walks in there. So you could, if Paul Verhoeven walked into Netflix and was like, I have Basic Instinct, they'll say yes.
Yeah, true. Possibly.
They're going to say yes.
Hey, while we're on the subject of streamers, what do you think of this whole Warner Brothers, HBO Max shit and the future of theaters in the age of COVID, and also Christopher Nolan?
We were headed there. We were headed in this direction. COVID has shown the vulnerability, and it has accelerated it. I'm looking forward personally to going back to a movie theater when the time is right, and I feel comfortable and safe to do that. You know, I'm so beyond annoyed that I can't go to the theater with my kid. You know, we've been just getting into going to the movies, and then it got taken away, which is annoying. But right now, everybody needs to stay safe, and we need to turn the corner and get people, you know, to a point where we can start to feel like we're back. You know, I don't even know what the old way is or what that is even going to be like when that happens.
Home theaters.
But we were headed in this direction. I wouldn't be surprised to see more people follow suit. You know, the filmmakers out there whining about their movies going to streaming. Just be lucky that you're getting a chance to get paid $20 million to make a movie. Like,
yeah, I mean, a lot of them are losing out. If the deals are back end heavy, they're losing out for sure on box office bonuses and all that kind of shit. I think Christopher Nolan's interesting because I feel like he kind of forced their hand. He insisted, instead of Tenet being held back, he insisted it come out now during COVID. So then it underperformed. So then fucking Warner Brothers is like, we can't keep putting movies out like Tenet that fucking tank. So we're going to go to streaming and make this deal with HBO. Plus, the whole AT&T of it all and this conglomerate.
Of course, and it's for it's for a year. But what'll happen is this: is that, well, here's the thing: we don't know what's going to happen. But when movie theaters do open up and they say, okay, we are ready for people to come back in mass, let's see that happen. And when will that happen? So from a business standpoint, I don't want to sit on my product and keep paying the interest on it and losing money on it, you know? So if I have to put out so if I got to spend a year and a half or 2 years in these experimental woods where we don't quite know what we're putting out and how people are going to see it, sorry. Hey, there's been a phrase I've been saying all year. It is what it is. Yeah. So I have this mentality where it's kind of like, cry me a river, Christopher Nolan, that, you know, your movie didn't come, you know, like I've interviewed Christopher Nolan twice. He's awesome. I love him. His movies are great. Getting a chance to talk to him has been a trip and a half, but come on, dude. Like, you know, like who fucking cares? Like, it's just another movie. I mean,
talk about first world problems.
He's one of those people that would think that they're, I mean, and I don't disagree completely, but that there's a sanctity to the theater experience, but Chris and I talked about this before too, though. That's only in part because of traditionalism. If everyone had access to a big ass flat screen TV and surround sound in their house in the 1920s, would theaters have ever existed? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if everyone would want to go hear everyone else cough and crinkle their fucking rap.
Yes.
That's the other thing too.
It's far more about the story and the film itself than it is about being surrounded by a bunch of strangers while I watch it.
I will want to go back to the movie theater primarily for one big reason, and that's to do it with my son and to have fun and to do those kinds of things.
It's nice because it's like a church where you go to focus. You know, it's like there is no video.
You have a common interest.
Phone ringing. You know.
I spent 20 years of my life, 25 years of my life in a movie theater. So it's like I know what that experience is like, and I'm very.
You're alone, right?
Yeah. Is it cool if I start filming now?
No, what do we get inside? Why are you here?
I just thought it was really interesting, that someone hasn't left their basement in 6 months, not even to use the bathroom. Is that true?
Why would I want to go out there? I got everything I need right here. That's what's wrong with most people. They're weak-willed pussies and parasites who buy into that whole "it takes a village" bullshit. You know how many aliases I've used calling into radio shows?
I've had it up to my goddamn gills with the systematic feminization of this country.
Of course we want you. Get your own damn show if you think you got that much to say.
You live in your mom's basement.
Run! Get down! Fuck you! What's so special about my loser son?
You really do hate your own mother.
She's a woman. Why wouldn't I?
There's some disconnect there, and if I can find it, what is hate? Where does it come from? Where does it go?
You want to know what gender you are? Reach down the front of your fucking pants and cheap fucking kite Black Lives Matter. Do you call horses slaves? Liberal fucktard. Enough with the parades and the rainbow flags.
Dude, this guy's... it's like pure hate, man.
I want to see something really fucking cool.
This guy is a fucking animal. He's got himself on a leash. He's itching to get off that fucking leash. And he's gonna fucking kill some people.
What a fucking show.
Stop!
What do we hear?
Look at me! Look at me!
We're gonna help you show them the light. We're gonna change the world.
This is Cactus Jack coming to you live from a studio audience.
To the man who calls himself Cactus Jack, we have watched as you have rocketed to infamy.
And you wonder why these cornered animals lash out.
Pick a fucking side.
And now, we have watched as you have called for literal blood.
I know you're out there listening. It's buzzing in your ears, burrowing into your brain.
Do it.
Jack, you're gonna love this.
I pulled that trigger on that motherfucker's head.
Your VPN will not shield you. The darknet will not hide you. You and your kind are finished.
You think I'm scared of you?
Come and fucking get me!
Might I be your neighbor?